Hey, what's up, everybody? Grant Baldwin here. Welcome to our live workshop. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great day. Wanted to hop on here a couple minutes early and let's say hey to everybody. We got a lot of people here, thousands of people, literally thousands of people that are registered to join us tonight. So glad you're here. Glad you're joining us. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Get you a seat. Get you something to write with. We're going to get rolling here just a couple minutes at the top of the hour. But before we do, I wanted to hop on here and give some shout outs and also just test everything and make sure everything's coming through loud and clear. So if you would, drop in the chat. Let me know if you can hear and see everything okay. Also, let me know who you are and where you're from. So drop in your name and where you're at in the world. Like I said, I'm going to do some shout outs here and let's get rolling here. Just a couple minutes at the top of the hour. So again, drop in the chat. Let me know who you are, where you're from, so we can say hey to you. And boy, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good tonight. So you're gonna. I hope you brought your A game because I'm ready to roll here. All right, we got a lot of people pouring in here. So welcome to all you guys. Welcome to let's see here, DJ in Franklin. Awesome, man. Welcome. We got Dan in Southern Cal, Don in Nashville, Jared in Utah, Bob in Washington, Josh is here, Darlene in Central Florida, Cindy in Jacksonville, JJ in Arizona, Joshua is here, Natalie in Minnesota, Danielle in North Central Florida, Shauna Ray in Coeur d'Alene, Kathy in Massachusetts, Mac in St. Paul, Arthur in Salt Lake City, Gwen in Ohio, Dee Dee in the UK, Bert in Detroit, Michelle in Northern Arizona, Mai in New York, Maurice in Dixon, Tennessee, Toby in Lubbock, Mike in Maine, Potato in Northern California, Martha in Florida, Marilee in Ohio, let's see, Curtis in Boston, Ryan in Northern California, Tanya in Omaha, Mike in Canada, Carl in Detroit. Welcome to all you guys. Again, a lot of people coming in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. You're in the right place. Glad you're here. Glad you're joining us. We are live. It's Tuesday night, September the 15th. Glad you're here. I'm pumped for what we're going to be covering, what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be going over. We got a lot to get to, a short amount of time to do it. So it's going to be it's going to be good. It's going to be good tonight. All right. Also, once again, let me check and make sure. Let me know if you can hear and see everything okay. I want to make sure everything's coming through loud and clear for you. A couple of you said, well, I think we're good. So let me know if everything is fine there. Jamie Lynn in Seattle, Jose in Oklahoma City, Sequita in Michigan, Roy in Orlando, Antoinette in Delaware, Karen in Washington, Mary in Austin, Texas, Jennifer in Chicago, Carl is here, Carol in Mississippi, Vanessa in DC, Charlene in Canada, Anu in San Francisco, Michelle in Colorado, Emmanuel from Colorado, Blake in Denver. Lots of Colorado people here. All right. Jose in Oregon, Paul in Idaho, Pauline, Badra. I'm gonna go Badra in New Zealand. Welcome, very cool. You're in the future, right? Again, a lot of people continuing to make their way in. So again, glad you're here. We're gonna wait just about one more minute, and then we are going to jump right in. Also, let me check with you. How's everybody's day been? Are you having a good day? I've had a solid day, so I'm feeling good. I'm ready to roll. This is gonna be a lot of fun tonight. People continuing to come down or come in. So again, glad you're here. Glad you are joining us here. All right. Dan in Thompson Station. Dan, let me know where you're at, man. That's where I'm at. All right. I'm ready to go. Are we ready? Let's do this. All right. Let's see here. You can see my slides. Okay, we're good there. All right, let's jump in here. Again, welcome. So glad you're here. Glad you're joining us. I am pumped that you're here. Glad that you're joining us. And I hope you've had a great day wherever you are. And we got a lot to get to today and a short amount of time to do it. So I'm just going to warn you now. I'm going to go through slides fast. I'm going to be talking fast. We got a lot to cover here. So we're going to be talking about how to get booked and paid to speak even during COVID. Now, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room that everything seems weird right now, right? Like so much of the world feels strange and uncertain. happen. And the truth is there's some big changes and shifts that are happening, not just in the world, but especially in the speaking industry. And so if you're not sure, you're not aware of how these shifts can affect you or what you need to do or what you need to be aware of or think about, you're going to be left behind. And we don't want that to happen for you and for your speaking business. So if you want to make sure that you're adapting to those changes, then you can actually get ahead of the curve and can really set yourself up for success in your speaking business. So perhaps the last few months have looked like this for you. Maybe for you, you've had events canceled or postponed or rescheduled. Maybe you've been worried about the future of the speaking industry. Maybe you've wondered what will happen to your speaking business. Maybe you've asked if you should change your topic or your audience. Maybe you've considered tearing up your living room to build a virtual studio. Maybe you've questioned whether you had what it takes to be a speaker. Maybe if you wondered if now is the right time to get started as a speaker. In fact, if any of these things apply to you, just drop in the chat and say, that's me. That's me. If any of these things apply to you, if you're looking at these things going like, yeah, these things sound familiar. And so here's the deal. If these things sound familiar, then you are in the right place. So on this training, we're going to be talking about a couple different things. We're going to talk about 3 industry shifts that speakers need to embrace today. All right. Not tomorrow, today. We're going to talk about the one thing that you should not be doing right now as a speaker. We're going to talk about why now is actually the best time to get started as a speaker. We're also going to talk about the roadmap that you need to follow to build your speaking business. Now, what makes this training different? Well, there's nothing for sale. All right. You can put your credit card away, relax, take a deep breath. I have nothing for you to buy. Just a lot of content. We're going to do some Q&A in a bit. So I want you to be fully present, locked in, focused. In fact, let's do a quick test. If you are fully present, just type in the chat, fully present. Just type in the chat, fully present. Tell your spouse to leave you alone. Tell the kids to leave you alone. Turn off the TV, turn off Netflix. I want you to, again, be fully present here. All right. Now, since we're going to be spending a few minutes together, let me give you a quick nutshell of who I am. So some fun facts here. I've earned multiple 7 figures from speaking, had over 750 paid speaking engagements, over 1,000 live presentations, 46 U.S. states that I've spoken in, over 500,000 people that I've spoke to live. 13,000 was the biggest audience that I keynoted an event for, sold over 30,000 physical copies of my self-published book, and also signed a 6-figure book deal with a traditional publisher. Now, none of that's meant to be a pat on the back at all, just to say, hey, I've been in the speaking industry for a while. We figured out a few things and been able to also help a lot of different speakers. But I also want to be clear that I did not start out that way. So let's go back in time for a second here. And let me tell you a quick snapshot of where I was. So I'm actually, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. Oh, isn't that precious? Go ahead and put in the chat. Oh, I know. Come on. Just appease me, amuse me here. So this is actually fun. When we started dating in high school, I was a freshman. She was a junior. Oh, okay. What's up now, huh? Hashtag baller. Somebody put hashtag baller in the chat there. So we dated for a while, got married, and we've been married for 18 years at this point, been together for 23 years. And we have 3 beautiful daughters. It's me in a house full of women. It's the best. I absolutely love it. I'll show you some pictures of them in just a few here. And in fact, the picture there of the apartment is where we lived whenever we first got married. You go up the stairs, second door on the left there. And that's what life was like. I was attending Bible college and began working as a youth pastor. And in 2006, I decided to pursue a career as a full-time speaker. I was doing a lot of speaking in the role that I was in as a youth pastor. Felt like I was a decent speaker, wanted to do more of it. And I just had no idea where to begin. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so I decided to pursue this career as a speaker. And business was going well. I was starting to book some gigs. I was starting to build some traction, starting to build some momentum. And so 1 year later, in 2007, the Great Recession hit. Some of you may remember this, may have affected you in some way. And so during that time, I had events canceled, postponed, or rescheduled. I was worried about the future of the speaking industry. I wondered what would happen to my own speaking business. I asked if I should change my topic or audience. I considered tearing up the living room to build a virtual speaking studio. Questioned whether I had what it took to be a speaker. And so if you've experienced these things, I want you to know that I've experienced these same feelings as well. And so I know what it feels like, and I know how to get through to the other side for your speaking business. And so one of the things I continue to remind myself was this quote, that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's one of my favorite quotes because there's so often for so many of us as speakers, we had thought about being a speaker. We've considered being a speaker for perhaps months or years. And so I wonder for me personally, if I had waited, where would my speaking business be today? Had I not got started then, had I not pressed through? And I wonder for you, how long you've been putting off your own speaking business. Whereas if you got started now, instead of waiting, because we can always put things off. We can always assume like, well, once the economy is great, or whenever, things are more stable, whenever things are more secure, or whenever, whenever I get married, or whenever I settle down, or whenever, like, fill in the blank. Listen, there's never a perfect time for anything. And so if I waited until, my wife and I were just newly married, we have a new baby on the way. If I waited till everything was perfect, I would have never started and never built the business that I have today, or been able to impact the people that I have today. But I want to be clear, again, I stuck with it and built a business as a successful speaker. And more importantly than that, I built a great life for my family. If you know me at all, or if you know anything about me, you know that, like, I love being a speaker. I love being an entrepreneur. I love being a husband. I love being a dad. In fact, right before this webinar, I was playing around with my kids. I was playing around with my wife, and I absolutely love my family. And so I want you to understand that if you follow what we're going to show you here, if you take these steps, that you can achieve the same thing in your own life with your own family. I believe that you can do the same thing even in this COVID-19 world. Now, what makes me think that? Because we have seen a lot of speakers, including our students, who are doing it right now. So in fact, let me give you some examples. Here's one from a speaker who said, "Hey, just saw your post. I've turned my 3-day workshop into a 5-part virtual masterclass. Launched this MVP over the weekend, made about $9,000. Not a huge result, but it's valid. It seems like a huge result. Excuse me, but it's validation that people are still spending, and I've been booked for 3 virtual events, 2 with Microsoft and 1 with Dell." One of our students, Mills, said, "I booked 4 virtual gigs, 3 paid since this COVID ordeal started, with some good prospects in the pipeline." Joel said, "Hey, Grant, was hired yesterday by a Healthcare Underwriters State Association for a virtual conference. I'm speaking Thursday." Another one says, "The bulk of my business is coaching and consulting, so that revenue is as strong as ever. But in addition to that, I've booked multiple paid virtual speaking gigs." Check this out. This is cool. "I've done more of them in the last few weeks than I did traditional gigs last year," which is really, really cool. And then this one, "Thanks, Grant, for checking in. I've delivered 24 paid," look at that, 24 paid virtual speaking gigs in the last 3 months, based on information I've learned representing the Speak Lab. You guys make it easy. 24 paid virtual speaking gigs in the last 3 months. That's crazy. Now, let me go into Mr. Rogers mode for a moment. Okay, you guys, maybe you've seen the movie with Tom Hanks. Man, he just looks so much like Mr. Rogers. It's crazy, right? And so here's what I want to tell you. I know that this is tough right now for so many people. The mental, the emotional, the physical, the economic impact has been substantial for everyone. But I believe in you as a speaker, and I believe in your message. And I believe that people need speakers now more than ever before. In fact, maybe you've seen my book came out earlier this year called The Successful Speaker: 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, Building Your Platform. And in fact, inside the book, the dedication, this is a picture of the actual dedication. It says that this book is dedicated to speakers everywhere who desire to make an impact. The world needs your message. You can do this. You can do this. And I believe that. It's why we put it in the book, is because I believe that the world needs your message now more than ever before. And so here's a question for you. This is not rhetorical. I want you to actually put this down. But what would being a speaker allow you to do that you currently can't? What would being a speaker allow you to do that you currently can't? Again, this is not rhetorical in any way. I want you to drop it in the chat there and let me know, what would being a speaker allow you to do that you currently can't? So here's the thing. As speakers, we must adapt to the changing market. It reminds me of this quote from Wayne Gretzky. He said that I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. The reality is like in this world now that we're in, the puck has moved. And so we can't just pretend like it's business as usual, or pretend like, well, it's just, I'll stick my head in the sand. It doesn't work like that. So let's take restaurants, for example. Restaurants have had to pivot. Restaurants and fast food have had to close their dining rooms and have been turned into carryout or delivery companies. And so there's a lot of shifts that are happening. And so I want to talk about 3 shifts that speakers need to embrace today. 3 industry shifts that speakers need to embrace today. So if you're taking notes, write this down. If you got a pen, pencil, marker, crown, lipstick, chapstick, nail polish, blood, whatever you need to use, don't use blood, but get these down on paper. All right. First one, number 1, is that virtual speaking is here to stay. Virtual speaking is here to stay. Virtual speaking and training, they've been around for a long time, but it's never been a real viable option. It's something that some speakers have dabbled in, but for the most part, neither speakers nor event planners really ever took it that seriously. But due to COVID, it's really forced everyone into virtual, and people are seeing that it can and should be a viable option for speakers. Now, recognize that like virtual will never replace in-person, but there's some massive benefits and upsides to virtual gigs. So virtual speaking means a couple things. It means that there's no travel, right? One of the non-glamorous, non-sexy parts of being a speaker is travel. Like you're always on a plane, you're always gone, but virtual speaking means that you don't have to do that. It means that you're able to impact a broader audience and reach more people. I mean, take what we're doing right now. There are thousands of people that have registered to be here from all over the world, and everyone is home. I'm home right now. You're wherever you are in the world, and in your home or wherever you're at. And so virtual speaking allows us this opportunity. And it gives you the ability to speak at more events. In fact, just recently I was talking with a speaker who I believe they were in, where are they? I think they were maybe in Utah, and they were like, they were in California. And then they spoke at something in Utah, and then they spoke at something up in like New York, and then they spoke at something in Europe, and they did it all in the same week. And he said, I never left home. These are different clients and different companies that I was working with that were literally around the world, and I was able to be home the entire time. There's also less lead time for booking events. I've seen most of the time for live in-person events, they're booked anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 months out, depending on a couple different factors and variables there. But whenever it comes to virtual, it's a much shorter lead time, so that you may be able to be booked for something that's happening next week or within the next couple weeks, because there's a lot fewer logistics that go into a virtual event. Another thing that's a big upside is, again, there's more time home with family. Like I mentioned, I love being a speaker. I love what I get to do. I love helping other speakers, but I love being home with my family. There's a speaker friend I saw who posted this, said, friends and family, I'm so excited to share my new virtual keynote preview video with you. Please check it out. I have 5 online presentations this week, 4 for clients, 1 open to the public. Candidly, I did not anticipate how much I would love to deliver interactive virtual keynotes, virtual roundtables for the best clients of my clients, and custom webinars. I love this work. And here's my favorite part. Check this out. The best part is I get to be home with my family every day. Then he emphasizes every day. Listen, that's one of the great things about virtual. Now, there's a lot that's happening in virtual that we need to be paying attention to. I saw this, that LinkedIn is doubling down on virtual events. Obviously, LinkedIn is a massive company, so it's something we need to be aware of and prepare for. Virtual events are the new normal. Here's how to plan one. If you wanted to host your own, there's a lot of opportunities for that as well. Some of you may have seen this. This was crazy, that Zoom's daily active users jumped from 10 million to over 200 million in 3 months. Whenever a lot of the shutdown started to happen earlier this year, that Zoom jumped from 10 million to over 200 million in three months. That's absolutely just mind-boggling. Zoom's had its own issues, and I know that we are all dealing with that today. And here's how I knew it was really a big deal. Oprah to host interactive virtual events. Listen, if Oprah is getting involved with the virtual events, you know it is serious. You know it's something that you should be paying attention to. Now, as we go today, I want to share with you a couple different students that we've worked with and some other speakers, and some of the pivots and changes that they've made and how they've adapted, and some of the results that they're seeing. So let me introduce you to one of our students who's also a coach with the Speaker Lab, Eric. Eric joined our program a few years ago. He speaks to associations, corporations, about human dynamics and communication through body language. And he quit his job in 2019 to become a full-time speaker. However, due to COVID, he lost 9 paid gigs, had $154,000 in revenue that was affected. But he pivoted to virtual, has really been working hard on booking virtual. And check this out. He's earned back over $100,000 in just a few weeks. Look at the screenshot on the left there. He said, speakers, I'm sending out proposals for virtual training through my event planner network. I'm keeping notes and documenting my journey. I'll report back once I get some data on what's working, and what's not working. And then he said, I sent out 10 virtual meeting proposals today. I'll let you know how it goes. And then he said, I landed my first virtual speaking gig this morning. Took me 3 days to land my first one after sending out proposals. Look at that. Just made that shift within 3 days, already booked a gig. And then he said there in the right screenshot, going live for paid virtual training, 500 attendees. And so, in fact, like I mentioned, Eric is one of our coaches here at the Speaker Lab, works with students on how he's made pivots and how he's adapted to virtual and the results that he's seeing. In fact, I talked to him earlier. He booked a gig actually today, which is crazy how he continues to book gigs. So what does that mean for you? Well, I want you to think about this. Like, what is your plan to A, book virtual gigs, but to B, present your content in a compelling way in a virtual environment? Just because you're a great speaker doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great virtual speaker. So you need to make sure that you have a good setup where you can present and deliver in a virtual, in a compelling way in a virtual environment. All right, second big shift that's happening in the marketplace is that events will become smaller before they get bigger. Events will become smaller before they get bigger. Well, why is that? So while virtual is a viable option here and will and should absolutely be taken seriously, nothing will ever replace in-person events. Like, people crave human interaction. How many of you, maybe like you've been craving just giving people hugs or high fives or handshakes, and as like maybe restrictions in your area were loosened a little bit, like you're just like coming out of the woodwork just to hug anybody and everybody, right? Because people we crave that human interaction. And so the reality is that large events could be some of the last things that come back, because the idea of getting a whole bunch of people in a small space is not necessarily a great thing for many people who may not feel comfortable with that. So one of the things that we're seeing right now is that events will be smaller before they get bigger. In fact, I saw just earlier today, a speaker friend of mine, he was traveling to speak to a company, and he said he's speaking to, I don't remember how many people, a couple hundred people there, but he was speaking to groups of like 10 at a time, and he was just working with a whole bunch. And so what that means is, again, it creates a lot more potential events. So in fact, smaller events means a few things. Again, it means more like boutique types of events, more small workshop training opportunities. And it also means just more gigs for the same client. So whereas before, he may have been able to come in, this particular speaker I saw today, he may be able to come in and speak to the entire company. Now he does it in smaller groups. And so he's most likely able to charge more for that because of the number of presentations that he's having to do. Let me give you an example of this. Beth. Beth is a student of ours who works with, who has gone through some of our programs. She's an artist who speaks on the topic of creativity, does small group workshops and facilitations with organizations. And she said this is cool. She said, I want to share a win with you. This past week, I had a speaking gig combined with facilitation. It was 3 hours and I was paid $7,000. Holy moly. I never dreamed I would get paid that much to do this. I was doing the same work for pennies before, but this program has changed the way I value my work and has set me up for major success. Thank you, Grant, Rick, Eric, and community. You all helped me to get here. Now, again, I share this with you as an example of what is possible. You don't have to do some like large scale keynote in order to be a successful speaker. There's a lot of opportunities with smaller workshops where you can still generate significant fees. Again, she's doing a small workshop facilitation and earn $7,000 for 3 hours of speaking. So what that means for you is, how are you adapting your content for smaller workshop settings? Maybe you're used to doing bigger keynotes or events. Maybe you've wanted to do bigger events. Well, again, it may be a second before those really come back into the mix of things. So how are you adapting your content for smaller workshop settings? Third thing is that there are the speakers who are successful through this are playing the long game. The speakers that are successful through this are playing the long game. Because here's the deal. Like, live events, the speaking industry has been around for a long time. Like, live events involving speakers have been around literally since the Greeks. Like, the speaking industry, it's survived wars and depressions and recessions and 9/11, and it can and will certainly survive a pandemic. Now, what does it mean to play the long game? Well, a couple things. One is to recognize that the speaking industry isn't going anywhere. Again, it's been around for a long time. It will continue to be around for a long time. So you have to have a long-term perspective on the speaking industry and what you're doing. Another thing here is to recognize that events are still booking speakers. I talk with event planners, I talked with speakers, and people, again, are still booking gigs right now. Some of them are in person, many of them are virtual, but events are still booking speakers. And the need for speakers is and will continue to be greater than ever before. Like, part of being a speaker, we're going to talk about this more in just a second. Part of being a speaker is that we are in the solution providing business, right? And so because we are in the solution providing business, then companies, organizations, groups, churches, schools, they need solutions. They have problems and challenges and obstacles. They need our solutions more than ever before. So it's a great, great opportunity for speakers right now. The good news is that the relationships matter. The better news is that relationships are formed quicker through crisis. Okay, let me give an example of this. Let me introduce you to Odell, another one of our students. Odell speaks at colleges and universities around the country. He speaks on leadership, helps campuses with leadership development of students. And he said this. He said, my biggest crowd to date, 4,000 students at a university. I got this event because I volunteered at an organization that Grant told me about. His program works. If you haven't invested in BPS yet, you should. This stuff works. He is the real deal. Again, Odell, he understands that he is playing the long game, is being smart about how he's going to serve and support colleges. And what did it lead to? It led to a 4,000 person event. Let me give you another example of this. Matt is another student of ours. He teaches organizations and groups about customer engagement, does a lot of small group workshops and strategic planning retreats. And Matt said this. He said, the single most important lesson I've learned from Grant is to recognize just how far in advance conference organizers work to secure speakers. So this took a long while to happen, but just today I was engaged for a major keynote address to take place more than 10 months from now, and for which I'd never even been considered had I not followed Grant's direction to plant a seed some 6 months ago. Now, that one gig far more than covers my investment in Grant's program, makes me even more hopeful for all the other seeds he's already had me plant. Thanks, Grant. So again, Matt understands he's playing the long game here. It's not about what he can get from a client at this moment, but about having a long-term focus on building relationships and serving. So what does that mean for you? Well, I want to know, like, what is your plan to build relationships with and serve potential clients right now? You want to be thinking these things through and be considering these. So what should you do right now to continue moving forward as a speaker? Well, here's what you should not do. You should not do this. You can't just stick your head in the sand and pretend like everything is fine. Like, that just doesn't work. You have to, I like this quote, you have to be decisive, like right or wrong, make a decision. The road of life is paved with flat squirrels who couldn't make a decision. I am, like I mentioned to you, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We got 3 daughters. And from time to time, when I start talking to my daughters and I'm sharing some type of a teachable moment or something, then my voice changes, right? I don't know if you as a parent, if your voice changes at all when you get a little bit more serious. And so my oldest daughter, she started referring to it as dad's wisdom talk. Dad goes into his wisdom talk. So this right here, look at your screen. This is your wisdom talk, is that you have to be decisive, right or wrong. I want you to make a decision. All right, so where do we go from here? What steps do you need to take? Well, the next steps here is that you have to follow the Speaker Success Roadmap. The Speaker Success Roadmap. This is the plan that you need to build and grow your speaking business in any industry, on any topic, in any economy. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a high-level overview of what the Speaker Success Roadmap is. Then we're going to come back and kind of go step by step and dig in a little bit more. Sound good? All right, first of all, I need a quick water break here. How's everybody feeling? Everybody doing well? Talk to me in the chat. You doing all right? Is this helpful? You learning something so far? All right. A important thing for any speaker is you got to stay hydrated. You got to stay hydrated. We good? Okay. Awesome. Let's keep cruising on here. I'm feeling good. I'm bringing my A game to you today. I warned you. All right. So, Speaker Success Roadmap. Again, this makes the acronym SPEAK, S-P-E-A-K. So let's start with the first part, S. And like I said, we'll go through it just high level, and then we're going to break it down one step at a time. So S, select a problem to solve. Select a problem to solve. So this is where it's important to get clear on who you speak to and what is the problem that you solve for that audience. The P, the next part of the process is to prepare your talk. Prepare your talk. So more than just knowing how to find and book gigs, you got to have a good solution. You are in the solution transformation providing business. And so this is where that comes in, to prepare your talk. The E is to establish yourself as the expert. There's 2 key marketing tools that you need, and we're going to talk about those here in just a second. The A is to acquire paid speaking gigs. Now, this is the part that, again, everyone wants to fast forward to. Man, I'm here to learn how to acquire paid speaking gigs, but you have to have these other pieces in place first. Otherwise, you're just going like, well, I just want to speak. And like, no, that doesn't work. You got to be really clear about who you speak to and what's the problem that you solve. You want to have your marketing assets in place. And then the last part here, the K, is to know when to scale. Know when to scale. Meaning for you, maybe you're interested in speaking, but you're also interested in coaching or consulting or having a book or doing a course or doing any number of things. And you can do all the things, but you can't do them all at once. So we're going to talk about that as well. So again, big picture, this is the speaker success roadmap. Okay. This is what you need to be following in order to be able to find and book gigs. Now, what does the speaker success roadmap look like in a COVID-19 world? Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. So first, let's start with the S, the select a problem to solve. Again, write these down if you're not already. But first of all, is this, that we are still in the problem solving and solution providing business. We are still in the problem solving and solution providing business. And so what you have to do as a speaker is you have to solve one specific problem for one specific audience. Solve one specific problem for one specific audience. There's, I talk with speakers regularly who have such a challenge with this because we want to speak to anybody and everybody. We love speaking. We want to help people. And so we tell speakers all the time, you want to be the steakhouse and not the buffet. The steakhouse, not the buffet. Now, what do we mean by that? Okay. Let's imagine that we were looking for a good steak. We have a choice. We could go to a steakhouse, we could go to a buffet where steak is one of 100 different things that they offer, and they're all mediocre. Or we could go to a steakhouse where they do one thing, but they do that one thing really, really, really well, right? They don't do lasagna. They don't do tacos. They don't do pizza. They don't do cupcakes. They don't do any of those things. They do steak, and that's it. It's counterintuitive, but by focusing on saying, I do this, but not all these other things, then it actually makes it easier to attract the right type of customers or clients. The mistake for so many speakers is we just say, but I want to speak on a whole bunch of different things. I want to speak to a whole bunch of different people. I want to speak to humans. That you end up becoming a buffet. Listen, nobody's excited to go to Golden Corral. They're not. Okay. If you're looking for good food, you don't go to Golden Corral. If you work with Golden Corral, if you affiliate with Golden Corral, not a knock. Okay. It's not horrible, but it's not great. Yeah. Nobody's excited to go to a buffet. If you're looking for like tacos, you go to a taco place. If you're looking for a good steak, you go to a steak place. If you're looking for pizza, you go to a pizza place. You don't want to go to a place where they do a whole bunch of different things. Okay. You go to that one thing, and that's what you have to be. Listen, this is what you have to do as a speaker. You have to solve one specific problem for one specific audience. If you don't get anything else out of what we're covering here today, get that. That is so, so critically important. You get that part right, everything else we're going to be talking about gets a heck of a lot simpler. Okay. So the danger though is, again, so many speakers are like this. I can teach anyone how to work from home or figure out how to use Zoom or homeschool your children or make 27 dinner options using just rice and beans or build your own bunker or not attack your children during quarantine or properly spell quarantine. Like all these things that we think we can do. And again, that makes you a buffet speaker. Don't be a buffet speaker. All right. Again, solve one specific problem for one specific audience. Solve one specific problem for one specific audience. Now I get it. Like this is not easy, right? It's tough to get clear on this, but it makes such a difference. Okay. Let me give you an example. Anybody ever played disc golf? Anybody ever played disc golf, frisbee golf? Anybody played that before? If so, just give me a yes in the chat. Give me a yes if in the chat there. I'm actually a big fan of traditional golf. I love playing that, but I've been intrigued by disc golf, and so I picked up a couple disc. And if you're not familiar with it, concept's the same as regular golf in that there's these baskets that you see there, and they're usually a couple 100 yards away, and you're just trying to get the frisbee in the basket in as few shots as possible, right? Same as traditional golf. And so I went a couple times. I was starting to kind of get the hang of it here, and then I went one time with a friend of mine who had played a lot. He was kind of decent at it, and he taught me a really cool lesson about disc golf. He said that when aiming, a lot of amateurs do one of a couple things. Okay, a lot of amateurs will aim at the entire part of the top chains, and he said other amateurs, though, what they'll do is they'll aim at the basket itself. But he said the best disc golf players in the world, they don't aim for the chains or for the basket. What they do is they aim for one individual link in the chains. And the reason is the more narrow, the more focused you are, the easier it actually is to hit your target. And the same thing is true with speaking. The more specific, the more narrow, the more focused you are, the easier it is to find gigs. Now, remember this is important. Okay. You don't need to have overcome something tragic in your life to be qualified to solve a problem. You don't. Okay. I've never conquered cancer. I've never cured cancer. I have never won a gold medal. I have never done anything that's been on the news. I am a white male from a middle class family in the Midwest. Like I've had a pretty normal, average, vanilla life. Right? There's nothing on paper that would qualify me to be a speaker. But remember, it's not about that. Okay. It's about solving a problem. And so regardless of what's happened or not happened in your life, you don't need any of these things in order to be a speaker. What you have to do is you have to solve one specific problem for one specific audience. You with me? This makes sense? Is this helpful? I'm bringing some heat today. I hope you're ready for this. I'm trying. Okay. All right, here we go. Next slide is important. Okay. Next slide is important. Just because events aren't happening today doesn't mean their problem has been solved. Okay. When the pandemic started earlier this year, it's not like, it's like, all right, let's just shut everything down. All problems have been magically solved. Is that the case? No. If anything, there's more problems that exist. And as speakers, that presents more opportunities. And so you still to this moment have the opportunity, I would say the responsibility to help serve and problem solve. So let's talk to us in the chat. Okay. Talk to us in the chat. I want you to answer two questions. Number one, who do you speak to? And you can't say people, don't say humans, don't say the world, don't say everybody. Who do you speak to? And number two, what problem do you solve? Who do you speak to? What problem do you solve? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. Drop it in there. All right. Let's keep cruising on. I'm feeling good. I'm ready. Keep cruising on. Next one. P, prepare your talk. Prepare your talk. Now, your best marketing is a great talk. I mean, think about your favorite products, your services, the ones that you recommend, that you talk to others about, the favorite movies, restaurants, anything like that. The reason that we talk about those isn't because their marketing or advertising is great. We talk about it because the product is just really, really, really good, right? So your talk, your presentation is your product. And so you have the responsibility as a speaker to make sure that your talk is the best it can possibly be. Okay, let me give an example of this. Karen is a student that we've worked with. Karen is a storytelling coach who speaks on how to use stories to build leaders and shape culture. And she said this was really cool. She said, a reminder that Grant Baldwin's process works. I gave a keynote 2 years ago. 2 years ago, people who attended that remembered me and my talk. They found me through my name and had me come talk to their company today. The best business development is a good talk. Use your name so people can find you. This is a long game and a relationship business, and you never know when you're planting seeds that will germinate years later. Now, notice two things that she said there, okay? Number one is she said that the best business development is a good talk. Like your talk is your product, all right? And the second thing she said, and we talked about this earlier, is this is a long game and a relationship business. And she also talked about planting seeds, which is exactly what Matt had said earlier as well. Now, I hear speakers who will say sometimes, I wish I had more time to work on my talk. Okay, we hear that regularly from speakers. Well, listen, now is as good a time as any. We've got a lot of free time in the world for you to focus on your talk. All right, let's keep cruising on here. That wasn't the Rona. Select a problem to solve, prepare your talk. How many of you, like when you cough or sneeze in public now, like you just feel like everybody just like is staring at you, or you just like, you just need to like go into a shell or something. Like I just coughed. I've been talking a lot. The world is weird. All right. Establish yourself as the expert. Okay. I want you to think about this like your product packaging. Think about this like your product packaging. Imagine like when you go to the grocery store, okay, and you get to the frozen section and you're looking for ice cream. There's so many different flavors and brands of ice cream. In fact, let me ask you, what is your favorite ice cream flavor and topping? What's your favorite ice cream flavor and topping? All right. I love anything chocolate. I'm a huge chocolate fan. Topping, I'm going to be honest with you. I like sprinkles. I don't know why. Like they don't really have much flavor. And if there's any other sprinkle connoisseurs out there like me, not all sprinkles are created equal. Like some are just like gross and some are like amazing. And I don't understand why sprinkles are so dumb. I'm a 5-year-old boy. All right. I love chocolate and sprinkles. Now, notice this: whenever you go to the grocery store, you go down like the frozen section there. You're looking at ice cream. There's all these different options, okay? And pretty much every ice cream company offers some form of vanilla. And so you have a couple different options. There, you have on one end you have like a Ben and Jerry's. You have a Great Value, like a store brand, and then you have this artificially flavored vanilla ice cream, right? And so here's a question for you, okay? These are all vanilla, but which would you prefer? Which would you prefer? In fact, give me a 1, 2, or 3 in the chat there. 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Which would you prefer? Again, like they all provide vanilla ice cream. So what's the difference? Talk to me in the chat. What's the difference between those three? The big difference is packaging. And so I want you to recognize here that packaging for products and packaging for speakers matters. Packaging for products and packaging for speakers matters. Your website, your demo video lets buyers preview the product before buying. And so why is a good website, why is a good video important? Because buyers equate packaging with value. Buyers equate packaging with value. So let me ask you this way. Which of these cost the most? And which of these cost the least? Which one of these cost the most? 1, 2, or 3? Okay, probably the Ben and Jerry's, right? We probably all are familiar with that. We recognize that. And why is that? In part because of the packaging. Like we assume that the packaging means that the value is bigger and greater. And so it's like whether or not we should judge books by the cover. We all do. And so you want to make sure that your website, your video are sharp and professional. Now, I'd also advise you to work with what you've got and improve as you go. Like work with what you've got and improve as you go. This is actually a screenshot from my very first demo video. You can see it's very dark. The lighting is bad. The audio is bad. The acoustics are bad. I was speaking to a group of about like 30 people or so. And it wasn't ideal, but it worked. So work with what you've got. Do it to the best of your ability. Do it with excellence and improve as you go. Okay, let's keep cruising on. Next one, acquire paid speaking gigs. Acquire paid speaking gigs. Now, again, this is the part I know that so many people are interested in. They're excited about. We want to get to. But again, do you understand now why you have to have these other foundational pieces in place first? Does that make sense? If so, just give me a yes in the chat. You tracking? Okay, so this is big. This is important. 2 important things that you need to know and recognize. Okay, number 1 is that events are still happening. Events are still happening. Again, like I mentioned, I've talked to event planners, I've talked to people, agents, I've talked to bureaus, I've talked with speakers, and events are still happening. I saw this from a speaker for a friend of mine. He posted this. He said, couldn't be any more proud of my mom right now. Despite all the chaos and difficulties, she's worked countless hours to make sure her organization's annual conference still went ahead, moving it from Seattle, Washington into a warehouse in Columbus, Ohio, and helping move all of it online. Like, again, events are still happening. And the second thing is that events are still booking speakers. Events are still booking speakers. This is recently I was texting with a friend of mine who works with a major speakers bureau. And I said, hey, he'd told me that they'd booked about 41 events or so. And so his reply at the bottom there, he said, I've made that public in emails to most speakers, no reason to be vague. And the new number is 46. Like they just keep booking events, new events, not like reschedule, not postpone, but new events. Like again, events are still happening and events are still booking speakers. Now, also remember, this is one thing we touched on earlier, but this is a relationship business. And what you do now will have a long-term impact, positive or negative, on potential events. Okay, let me give you an example of this. So this is a quick story. So a few years ago, I had a busy week of speaking, and I was going to be speaking in 3 different cities at 3 different events. And so I was going from, you can see the map there, number 1, Jackson, Mississippi, to number 2, Minneapolis, to number 3, Fresno, California. Okay, and I was kind of doing those in like back-to-back days. But the week before the contact in Minneapolis, the second stop, I had emailed and said that registration had not been what they hoped and that they were going to have to cancel the event. Now, at that point, I have a choice. Okay, I could have been a jerk and been like, that sucks. That's not my problem, though. You still owe me money. But instead, I try to think about like, how do I make this a win for them? Because she had to cancel the week before. I'd already booked my flights. I was flying from Jackson to Minneapolis to Fresno. It was going to cost too much to cancel it, and it didn't make sense to like fly home in the middle there. So basically, like I told her, I was like, I'm going to have to come to Minneapolis. Like I'm already going to be there. And so again, I was trying to think through like, how do I make her the hero in this situation? And so I said, tell you what, I'm going to be there either way, right? Either way, I'm coming to Minneapolis. And so I knew that she worked with several organizations in her area, and I said, why don't you just find an organization that could use a talk, and I'll be there, and I'll come give a speech to them for free, and don't worry about it. You get it booked and scheduled, but I'll come do it for free, and we'll do that. And so she calls around, she finds a group there. I go speak to them. And again, she's the hero. Hey, I have the speaker. He's in town. He can come give you a free presentation, right? So she's the hero in this situation. And so I tried to make her look good. And so because of that, then we built a good relationship. We built a good rapport. And then fast forward a couple years later, and this organization that she was involved in Minnesota, she was promoted to the national office. And her very first year in the national office, as she is planning the national convention, who do you think she hired as her opening keynote speaker for that national convention? It was me. And these are actual pictures from that event. Now, I think part of the reason that she selected me for this opening keynote spot was because I had served her well during her crisis. Her event was canceling, remember, the week before. And so she knew that I was good to work with, that I was going to take good care of working with her and working with her audience. And so I had built a good relationship with her and was playing the long game. And this is a great opportunity right now for speakers, every one of us, okay? Every one of us, I'm talking to you, to make sure that you're playing the long game right now. So that leads us to the last one. K is know when to scale. Know when to scale. Listen, now more than ever, generating revenue and impact as a speaker isn't limited to just speaking from stage. It's not limited to just speaking from stage. Like I mentioned, that we are still in the problem-solving business, and speaking on stage is just one medium to deliver your solution. So again, you may choose to help your audience solve their problem through a book, coaching, consulting, a training program, curriculum, could be any number of things. But here's the thing that's important, okay? Stop, danger, slow down. You can't do it all at once. You can't do it all at once, all right? You can do it all. You just can't do it all at once, okay? So you got to make sure that you slow down and make sure that you're clear on how speaking fits in. So let me ask you a question here. Let me ask you a question, okay? Again, this is not rhetorical. I want you to drop this in the chat. Can you do this? Can you do this? I want to know, again, drop it in the chat. Let me know. Can you do this? Are you ready and willing to do the work necessary to make an impact and income from your message? Are you ready and willing to do the work necessary to make the impact from your message? Remember what I said earlier, that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Like, how long are you going to continue to wonder if you have what it takes? At what point are you going to take action on your speaking dream, on your speaking goals to make it a reality? So you have a choice at this point. Option one, you can spend countless frustrating hours like Eric and I did. Like, you're trying to make sense of it all, stumbling your way through, and maybe one day it all comes together. Maybe. Here's an example of this. Rima. Rima works as an SAT coaching consultant, has also presented a TEDx talk on overcoming failure. And Rima said this. She said, thanks so much, Grant. Really, all of this is because the guidance you gave us during the course. For the past 3 months, I've been sifting through every article on the internet, like shooting an arrow in the dark to find out how I could get my foot in the door. Thanks to you and your wonderful course, I found my way. Now I can even see the results. Maybe for you, you feel like this. You're just kind of like wandering aimlessly without a coach, without direction there. Option two, though, as you can take the fast track, get step-by-step help from professional speaker mentors who are in the trenches with you. So how can we help you? Let me give you a quick nutshell here. We've actually set aside some time this week to speak to you personally, one-on-one, about how you can apply these strategies to your business, all right? So here's the thing. Here's where you are, okay? On the left side there, where you are, your reality, your current situation. On the right side, kind of across the chasm there, is where you want to be, your speaking goals, how much speaking you want to be doing, who you want to be speaking to, getting paid to speak and share your message. And in the middle there is that bridge, the bridge to get from where you are to where you want to be. And this is where speakers struggle. This is where speakers have a hard time. And yet this is where we specialize. We know how to guide you to the other side. And so who is this for? This is for new speakers who want to do a shortcut to starting and growing a speaking business. This is for professional speakers who are wanting more stability and predictability in their business. This is for people who are 100% committed to your success and hitting your income and speaking goals no matter what by following the system that we outlined today. And who else is this for? You've got to be ready to invest the time and resources necessary to get the results. So let me introduce you to Phil. Phil is a nationally recognized author and speaker who speaks on emerging technologies and the future. We need to ask Phil, like, look in the crystal ball, man. When's all this Rona stuff going to go away? And Phil said this. I said, I had my first paid speaking engagement in September of last year. I'd always wanted to be a speaker, but never did anything about it. Maybe for you, that describes you. I've always wanted to do this, but I've never done anything about it. After I got the chance to do it, I knew it was the right career for me. So late last year, signed up for Grant's program and joined this community, started working on building a speaking business. I'm pleased to announce that today I got my first signed contract for a speaking engagement, and I'm negotiating a series of 3 workshops with a client who initially hired me last year. Plus, I've got email conversations going with several other potential clients. Many thanks to Grant and everyone who's helped me out with my website and video. To everyone who worries that it can't happen to them, or this was a thing for me, he said, that they're too old to start something like this, push on. You're not too old, and it really can happen. Again, I love the first part and the last part there. I'd always wanted to be a speaker, but I never did anything about it. And he said, to everyone who worries that it can't happen to them or that they're too old to start something like this, push on. You're not too old, and it really can happen. So who is this for? If you are tired of speaking for free, you want to know how to acquire paid speaking gigs. In fact, earlier I was talking with some speakers, and they were saying, listen, I'm doing a lot of free gigs, and I need to know, how do I get paid for those? Okay. If that's the case, if that's where you're at, this is for you. If you need help understanding how to better market yourself, this is for you. If you just lack direction and you need help creating a clear plan, this is for you. If you're still struggling to find the right audience or problem to solve, if you're saying like, Grant, I recognize I need to solve one specific problem for one specific audience, but I don't know, or I have a whole bunch of ideas and I don't know what I don't know, this is for you. And if you need help growing as a speaker while balancing a full-time job, in addition to everything else you have happening in life, this is for you. We want to talk to you. Let me introduce you to Steve. Steve has worked in the public and private sectors as an intelligence and cybersecurity professional. He speaks and consults with government agencies, the military, and various corporations on security. He said this, he said, good news, booked my first paid gig of the year. It was a group I previously spoke at for free. Okay, look at this. And they had told me they don't pay speakers. Okay, again, maybe for some of you, you have been in this spot before. This time when they asked, I turned them down because the amount of time needed would be a net financial loss for me if I did it for free. They ran it up the chain. They got approval to provide a speaker's fee. I doubt I would have pushed for it had I not started this program and taken my speaking career more seriously, right? Listen, if you're serious about this, you have to take it seriously. Okay. You can't just like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to be a speaker. No. You have to take it seriously. So who is this not for? If you're not really that serious about achieving any of your speaking goals, this is not for you. If you're looking for like silver bullets or a get rich quick scheme, this is not for you. If you're not prepared to do the work required to see results, this is not for you. If you're just kicking tires, this is not for you. If you're not ready to invest in yourself or your speaking business, this is not for you. Let me introduce you to Tina. Tina's an author and speaker who works with churches, ministries, nonprofits. And she said this, she said, first and foremost, thank you to Grant and all the seasoned speakers for your mentorship over the years. I've spent thousands of hours reading, listening, and watching trainings. For the first time since negotiating my speaking gigs, I had a coordinator say, we want your best, highest quote with books, and will you add 200 more books for an additional 200 audience participants for more money? Why is this significant? Okay, this is really cool. Check this out. The 50% deposit I received today for this event will cover a 2-hour, that I will deliver a 2-hour presentation at, is equivalent to 160 hours of work at my full-time job in 1 month. Keep going after your dreams, people. The speaking business will work out for you if you work at it. I am in awe. I never imagined this in my life. Tears. The best part is this was a referral from someone that heard my keynote 6 years ago. Look at that. She received a deposit. Just the deposit alone earned her more than what she would normally make in 1 full month of working at her regular job. That's crazy, right? And so again, she says, keep going after your dreams, people. Speaking business will work for you if you work at it. So why are we doing this, okay? Well, on the call, we want to help you create a plan and strategy to make your goals happen fast. And if you want us to help you and we think it's a good fit, we might invite you to become one of our new students that we take on in our elite program. Now, what exactly is our elite program? Well, we're going to walk you through the program that is designed to help you build a predictable flow of speaking gigs that will generate more income, freedom, and less stress for your business and your life. And here's the best part. We literally guarantee that you will get booked and paid to speak in this program. We guarantee it, or we refund your investment. We know this works if you do the work. That's why we guarantee this. And so if we work together, here's a couple things we do. We build your speaking website. You need to have a website. You need to have a video. We're going to build your website. We're going to edit your demo video. Okay. If you're just like, I don't know how to make a website, I don't know how to make a video, that's fine. We are going to take care of that for you. We're going to find speaking leads specific to you. Okay. Not just like, here's some generic leads. No. If you said, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom in Texas and I want to speak, within a couple hours to this type of audience, we will find those leads specific to you. We're also going to give you unlimited one-on-one access to our coaches. Unlimited. Okay. We're in the weeds. We're in the trenches with you to make sure you are successful. We do twice a week coaching calls with our coaches, including myself and Eric, plus much, much more. So what happens next? We don't just work with anyone and everyone. Okay. We want to make sure that you're serious and that if we work with you, that we can ensure that you're going to get results. Like I said, we guarantee everyone who comes on the program that you will get booked and paid to speak. So what you want to do is you want to complete your application and schedule a one-on-one call with our team. Okay. Again, complete that application, schedule a one-on-one call with our team. On that call, we're going to provide value to you and your speaking business and see if working together is a good fit. Okay. So in fact, let me go ahead. So here's what I want you to do. You can go to thespeakerlab.com/apply. Let me throw this up there for you. Thespeakerlab.com, thespeakerlab.com/call. There we go. Sorry about that. Thespeakerlab.com/call. And I want you to book that appointment to speak with us. Okay. And listen, here's the deal. I'll tell you now, we have thousands of people who've registered for this, and all of these calls that we do are one-on-one calls. These are not group calls or anything like that. One-on-one calls. Okay. So you want to book your call as soon as possible. Okay. Don't ding around. Don't dilly dally. Go book your spot now. So when you go to that link, you're going to see, you're going to complete your application. It's going to give you a calendar that's going to pop up there. You schedule your schedule when it's going to be best for you, when that's going to make sense for you. So again, just book that call, and then we will call you at that time to do your breakthrough session. Now, again, I want you to recognize, like, on this breakthrough session here, like, we're going to do some real work. All right. So listen, if all you got out of that call was just clarity on this is who I should speak to, this is the problem that I should solve, like, that would be worth it to you. Right. Like if all you got out of the call was, I need to be charging more, and I got clarity on that, like, that would be worth it to you. Right. If all you got on the call was like, hey, like, again, this is who I speak to, this is the problem that I solve, that would be worth your time. Right. So you need to book the call. Like I said, there's a lot of people here. And so make sure that you book your call. Now, I know this. I know that if you are on this training right now, that you're still with us, that there's a lot of things in your business that could be better. They could be different. They could be improved, right? And so for whatever reason, you've been running into roadblocks, construction, detour, whatever it may be. And so I want you to know, we've worked with literally thousands of speakers. We have thousands of speakers who've gone through our program, all 50 states, 37 different countries, a variety of different, like, every possible industry, subject, topic, problem that you can imagine. If you're running into something, I promise you, we've seen it. We know how to solve it. We know how to remove that obstacle and get you back on track so that you are able to share your message and earn an income from speaking. So all you have to do, though, is you have to book the call. Again, go to thespeakerlab.com/call, thespeakerlab.com/call. And again, don't complete an application. Don't book a call if you are not serious. If you're just like, I'm just kind of kicking tires, or, oh, this would be cool, like, this is not for you. Okay. You need to book the call. Go to thespeakerlab.com/call. Now, we have a lot of people who are already booking calls, so we look forward to talking with you, to connecting with you. But in the meantime, I know we've had a lot of people here. I've covered a lot. I've talked fast. I went through slides fast. I knew that was what was going to happen. But I want to make sure that I answer some questions for you. So if you have any questions of anything that we've covered so far today, anything that I missed, or anything you want a clarification on, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to go through and answer as many of those questions as possible. All right, so let me check a couple things. Also, if you would, like I mentioned, we've got a lot of people here and a lot of people who are scheduling those calls right now. And so if a couple of you would let me know, does that link work okay? just let me know. We got a lot of people trying to book calls right now. So I just want to first make sure everything is working properly. So if a couple of you could just mention to me in the chat, let me know if the link is working okay. Good. Okay, cool. A couple of you saying that the link is good. We good? All right, cool. Okay. Let me scroll back through here because again, like I said, we have had a bunch of questions that have come in, and so I want to see if I can get to as many questions as I can here. All right, let's see here. Daniel asked a good question. How do you find specific leads for specific speakers? And so, well, a couple thoughts here. One, Daniel, is we are going to show you exactly what you need to do and how you can do this but what we want to do is we want to get you started. Okay. So this is not meant to be like the end all be all, but we want to get you going. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to show you how to find leads. You're going to find some leads. We are going to find an additional amount of leads for you to get you going there. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, it's like that expression. If you catch, what is it? You teach a man to fish, he can catch fish for the rest of his life. I'm butchering it, but here's the deal. Rather than just like us going and saying, here, we're going to catch all the fish for you. We're going to teach you how to fish, show you how to fish. We're going to let you catch some fish. Then we're going to catch a bunch more fish for you and get you going and show you what you need to do. So that's what we want to do inside the program here, is to give you a jump start of what you need to be doing. John said, don't have a business at this point, and I'm working on figuring out what it is to speak to and what problem to help solve. I tell you what, John, this is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that any speaker at any level has, is to get clear again on that first foundational piece, select a problem to solve. And so, again, I was talking with some speaker. I know one of the speakers is on the call here, but we can walk through this. We can talk about it on this training, but so many speakers, they want the one-on-one feedback and coaching of, yeah, but how do I get it that I got to solve one specific problem for one specific audience, but how does this apply to me? And thinking through all the different options, and you need to kind of talk that through. So inside of our elite program, we go through a lot of one-on-one coaching. We give you some training, some resources, but also a lot of one-on-one coaching, some different homework assignments to help you really get dialed in and clear on who to speak to and what problem to solve. So the biggest mistake that speakers make is they just try to speak to everybody and anybody, and they end up speaking to nobody, right? So you do have to be clear. And so we want to help you get clear on who to speak to and what problem to solve. All right, we got a lot of you already booking those calls. So again, keep booking the calls. And like I mentioned to you, these are one-on-one calls. Okay, so don't ding around. Don't wait forever to book your call. Get your call booked right away here. Patty asked, will this work for a newbie? I haven't spoken yet. I'm needing to be guided on how to start my speaking business. Yes, Patty, you've got to book a call, buddy. This will work for you. And here's why. We work with a lot of brand new speakers, and there are a lot of speakers who, well, let me back up here. Let's put it this way. Every single speaker that you look up to, that you admire, that you respect, every speaker started from zero. Every speaker, myself included. There was a time where I had none gigs, and then I had 1 gig, and then I had 2 gigs, and then I had 5 gigs, and then 10 gigs, and 100 gigs. Like, everybody starts from zero. Everybody. There's no exclusion to that. Okay. So the most important thing that you can do, Patty, though, is you have to take that first step. This is why I showed you several examples today of speakers who are in your same shoes and in your same position, Patty, of going like, I want to do this. I'd love to do this. I would love to get paid to do this. I don't know if I have what it takes. And speakers are saying, no, I took myself seriously. I finally stopped wondering if I had what it took. And I finally said, I'm going to do this. But the best thing that you can do, Patty, is you have to book the call. Like I said, if we know that we can help you, we guarantee that we will get you booked and paid to speak. Okay. But you have to do the work. You have to, and the first step of doing the work is to book that call. So again, go to thespeakerlab.com/call and book your call. Michelle asked a good question. What's your take on the perceived value in virtual versus in-person events? My clients are all over the map with what they think is reasonable to pay. I don't want to devalue my work, but I want to respect the market in a way. Yeah. So, obviously we're a couple months into COVID land and virtual speaking gigs. And I think it's still a little bit all over the map. What a good general rule that we have seen is most speakers are charging for virtual are charging 50% of what their normal in-person rate would be. So if your normal speaking fee is, let's say, $5,000 for in-person, you might consider charging $2,500 for virtual. Now it could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, but that's kind of a good ballpark to go with right now. And the reason is it is different, right? It's not the same experience as you being in person. It's, me talking right now virtually to you, wherever you are in the world, Michelle. It's not the same as if we're, all of us, thousands of us are in the same room. It's just not the same, right? And so, is your content still solid? Yes. Is your solution still solid? Yes. Like presenting it virtually doesn't take away from that in any way, but it is different. And so, I would consider probably a 50% reduction there in what your normal in-person speaking fee would be. Again, like we talked about, some of the upsides of virtual though is you can do a lot more in a day, in a week. You can talk to a couple of speakers who've done 3 or 4 virtual gigs in a day and have never left home, right? And so you can certainly do a lot more virtual. All right, I'm continuing to kind of scroll through questions here. A lot of you continuing to book calls, so keep booking your calls, and we look forward to working with you here. Good question here from J.I. Mitchell. How familiar are you with the Canadian market? So I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee, and in the Nashville suburbs. And so a lot of speakers that we work with are in the U.S. But like I mentioned before, we also have worked with speakers in 37 different countries around the world. I know a lot of speakers up in Canada. Most speakers I know in Canada also are doing a lot of gigs in the U.S. Now, again, given the current climate, they're doing a lot of virtual gigs as well, which doesn't require you to have to go anywhere. So virtual gigs opens up opportunities for you to speak literally to anyone in the world. And so I do know this, that like I said, we have speakers in 37 different countries around the world. And so the principles, the ideas apply to, it may have to be like some slight modifications depending on where you're located and anything that's different in your country versus the US. Canada is not going to be dramatic differences between there and the US, but as far as the speaking, but again, you have a lot of opportunity with virtual as well right now. James asked, what if we do not yet have a speaking business, but want to start the process of a career change? So one thing I'd say to you, James, is don't quit your day job. Okay. So it's not like, all right, I want to be a speaker. And so I'm going to quit my job on Friday, and by Monday I'm a full-time speaker. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Right. And so in fact, we have a lot of speakers who've joined our programs who who started from scratch and have built it to the point where they are now full-time speakers, that they are all in, that they made that career change. But it's not an overnight thing. And so first of all, recognize it's going to take a second, right? Most speakers, it takes a couple of years to build that up. And so you don't want to bail too quickly on your current job. You don't want to put, unnecessary or undue financial pressure on yourself because you have to make this work immediately. So don't do that. But again, we work with a lot of speakers as you make that transition and what that looks like. I made the transition as well. Like I went from no gigs to being able to do it full time. But in the meantime, like I had to eat and live indoors and provide for my family. And so I get it. I totally understand, that situation. We can definitely help you with that. Malik asks, what's your advice for someone who continuously disqualifies themselves? My advice would be knock it off. Stop doing that. Listen, we'll talk about 3 factors that come into play as a speaker, as far as like figuring out who you speak to and what you speak about. There is the industry, and again, who you speak to, the interest, what's the problem that you're going to solve and what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. And the third one's going to be integrity. So industry, interest, and integrity, meaning are you qualified to talk about the topic? Now, you don't have to be the world's greatest expert to talk about any subject or topic. So I'll give an example. Like when I take my car to the local mechanic to get an oil change, like whoever's working on my car, like I know nothing about cars. So to me, like whoever's working on my car, like that person's the expert. Why? Because they know more about cars than I do. Now, does that mean that they're the world's greatest expert on cars? No, like I know that, they know that, but I'm not looking for the world's greatest expert on cars. I'm looking for this one person who knows more about cars than I do. So to me, like that person is the expert, right? And so you don't have to be the world's greatest expert. You don't have to continually like disqualify yourself and thinking like, well, I don't know as much as such and such or those persons or that. Like, again, you're not trying to be the world's greatest expert. If you're a step or two ahead of your audience, then you're in great shape. You're in the perfect spot to be able to have the integrity and be qualified to talk about a certain thing. All right, I'm continuing. Charlie asked, at the end of the elite program, would I be obligated to reach an exclusive agreement with you? As far as like booking gigs? No, like we teach you how to find and book gigs. We help you do that. But when you book gigs, we don't get a dime of that. We've never taken a dime from any of our students speaking gigs. That's not, we don't have any interest in that. So we want to teach you what to do and help you to do it. But if you get booked for $1,000 or $7,000 or $20,000, we don't see a dime of that, right? And so it's all yours, and you don't have to sign any exclusive agreement with us. Here's a good question from Tom, who asked, how do you determine a speaker fee? Great question, Tom. So there's a couple different variables and factors that go into a speaking fee. Okay. One is going to be your industry. You can charge more in some industries versus others. You can charge more speaking to corporations than you could to churches. You can charge more speaking to colleges versus like elementary schools, right? So your industry is going to be a factor. Your experience is going to be a factor. If you're a brand new speaker just getting started, you're probably not as good of a speaker as someone who's been doing this for 20 years and just a better speaker. And then your marketing materials, your website, your video, like those things are important. Like I said, we know that a lot of speakers are intimidated by those. It's daunting. It's, maybe you're not super tech savvy. That's why within the elite program, we make those for you. Like we just design your website for you. Okay. And not just like, hey, here's this, good luck. Like you meet with our designer, you talk with them, get feedback on what you're looking for, kind of the aesthetic, the look that you're going for. We build your website for you. We create your demo video for you. So like, you don't have to worry about those things. Like those things matter. Again, like we talked about earlier, whether we like it or not, people judge books by their cover. And so we want to make sure that we provide you a great website and a great video that you are represented well in the marketplace. So The other thing I would say, Tom, is to we actually have a speaking fee calculator. Some of you may have seen this before. If you go to myspeakerfee.com, myspeakerfee.com, I'll throw this in the chat, speakerfee.com. Go check that out. You answer a couple questions there, and it'll tell you what you should be charging. It's totally free. But again, because there's a lot of variables and factors that go into what you should be charging relative to someone else, but use that as a good gauge. It also factors in if it's a virtual gig versus an in-person. So again, go check out myspeakerfee.com. Good question. All right, I've got a lot of questions continuing to come in, and a lot of people continuing to book calls. So again, keep booking those calls. We are excited to talk to you. We're looking forward to connecting with you. Remember, like I said, there's one-on-one calls, thousands of you, one-on-one calls. So make sure you book your call quickly. Okay, let me scroll back through here. I know we have a lot of questions that are continuing to come in. How's everybody doing? Everybody feeling good? You good? You good? Okay. Matt is, what's the range of your typical fees? Again, it depends on a bunch of different factors. So if you're in, most newer speakers are going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. Okay. Between 1,000 and 5,000, sometimes a little bit lower than that. But most newer speakers, depending on a couple different factors, that's going to be about where you're going to start. For speakers who've been at this for a little while, if they're speaking like in the corporate market or association market, usually $5,000 to $10,000. For speakers who've been at it for a bit, good corporate speakers, association speakers, usually $10,000 to $20,000. They have like a book maybe that they're known for, or have some credibility in a certain niche. That goes a long way. And then from there, it can be, $25,000 to $50,000 for, best-selling authors, for kind of, B-list celebrities. And then it can be way, way higher from there, $50,000 way up for, big wig celebrities there. So it ranges significantly. John asked, from the Speaker Lab trainings, will I learn how to use Zoom and other virtual platforms? Yeah, we're doing a lot of training right now about virtual speaking, and not only how to book virtual gigs, but how to present in a virtual environment, right? And so we actually have a program we came out with earlier this year called Virtual Speaking Pro, and so we provide that for our elite students. So you're equipped to be able to, again, book and deliver virtual gigs. Here's a good question from Travis. Speaking a career, you can start part-time or while you still have a full-time job. You can, yes. But there are different factors there that will affect it. So for example, if you are in, let's say, a typical traditional, Monday to Friday 9 to 5 gig, and you have very limited vacation time, and especially if it's something where you need to travel, then it's going to be potentially challenging. The good news, though, is, again, right now there's a lot of virtual opportunities that exist, and so you can present perhaps more without traveling. And so that may give you a little bit, if you have a little bit of flexibility with your job. A lot of companies right now obviously are allowing their employees to work remote, work from home. So it may give you some flexibility to present a virtual presentation in the middle of the day without ever having to go anywhere, and without it being a significant drain on your normal 9 to 5 job. So yeah, like I said, there's very, very few speakers that I know that have gone from like, I'm just going to quit my job on, I don't know of any speakers actually who've gone from like, I'm just going to quit my job on Friday and I'm just going to become a speaker. Like it doesn't work like that. So pretty much any speaker I know has had a full-time job while building their speaking business. All right, Andre asked a good question. I'm swamped right now. Wouldn't want to waste your time or mine just now, but I can see a moment in the future. I have a couple passions that I would love to help people with. I find myself noodling with what you say. My problem will be time management and freeing up enough of it in order to make the commitment. Will the call be worthwhile if I need to wait a month or two to dive in? So I would say this, Andre. Again, like I mentioned before, there's never a perfect time to build a speaking business. There's just not. Like when's a good time to start a family? When's a good time to get married? When's a good time to move? When's a good time to make a career change? When's a good time to start a business? Like there's just not a perfect time ever, right? When I started my speaking business, in fact, I mentioned to you, I was a youth pastor for a little while, was doing some speaking there, decided I want to pursue a career as a speaker, and left the job that I was in, like stable salary, income, health insurance benefits. When I left that, my wife was 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time. And so I had no other job that I was going to. Like speaking was just getting started, certainly nowhere near to live off of. And it was nowhere near the ideal time. But I knew, like, again, there's never a perfect time. There's never a perfect time. So, again, it's like that quote, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So you can always put it off, keep putting it off, keep putting it off. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. We've been around for a long time. We'll be around for a long time. But I would encourage you, if you want to make this a reality, like now is as good a time as any to get started. Deborah says, what do you find is the standard length of a talk now that it's virtual? There's not necessarily like a standard length. I would say with virtual that everyone's attention spans are shorter because there's too many other distractions. People can be like paying attention to virtual, but they're also like, on their phone or checking Facebook or have a TV on or something. So less is more when it comes to virtual. So some of it depends, like as far as like how long you should speak for depends a bit on the client that maybe you're working with and what kind of schedule that they have. But 30 to 45, 60 minutes is pretty standard. All right, a lot of you continuing to schedule those calls, so keep it going. Another good question here. From Charlie, will my website be my own or will be a part of a group of websites under your umbrella? What if I already have a website? It's your website. We don't own it. You own the domain. We create it for you, but you have the keys to it. So it's not ours. It's all, we'll build it for you, but it's all yours. Hannon asked a good question here. How can you help with video if I don't have one? Ideas? Yeah. Creating a demo video is kind of this chicken egg situation. You need footage in order to get a video, in order to get gigs, you need gigs in order to get footage, which came first, the chicken or the egg. And so we can help you with that. We can help you. Remember, you're also creating like version 1.0. So at this point in my own speaking career, I've had 6 or 7 different demo videos, maybe more. And so we talk about like work with what you got, do it to the best of your ability and improve as you go. And so we can help you get some initial footage to create that first video. And then each time you speak, you can get more footage and better footage and continue to improve there. Cece said, is there a market for the over 60 crowd since a lot don't know how to go online? My mom's over 60. She knows how to get online. Yeah. One, I think you're underestimating people's ability to get online. And two, like I mentioned before, there was it was Phil. And Phil had said, one of his hangups was he was worried about his age, right? But he said this, it can work for him. It can work for you. So we have speakers at all different ages, in the 60s, 70s and above, speakers in their 20s. And so, again, all different ages, different stages of life. So if you're serious about finding and booking gigs, sharing your message with the world, then you need to book your call. Here's a good question. Daniel asked, "What's your experience in working with speaker bureaus?" So, I'm connected with several speaker bureaus, and speaker bureaus are serve a great purpose in the speaking industry. But what I would say is, um, if you are not already booking gigs and booking a lot of gigs, then a bureau is not going to be interested in you. Okay. Um, a buddy of mine who's a president of a speakers bureau, he said that bureaus don't create demand, they manage demand. Okay, let me say that again. Let that sink in. Bureaus don't create demand, they manage demand. And what I mean by that is it's not like bureaus are like, man, we have all of these gigs, we just can't find any speakers. Like it's not like that. Like most bureaus have hundreds, if not 1,000 or more speakers available on their roster that they can choose from. They have no shortage of speakers. So I'm listed on several bureau websites, and I would say like in the several hundred gigs that I've done in my career, probably 15, 20, maybe 25 have come from bureaus. And so if I get a bureau gig, awesome, but I'm not building my business based on that. So the same thing with you. Like when we work with students in our elite program, like we don't say like, oh, how do you book gigs? Well, you just get in with a bureau and they take care of it. No. Like we teach you how to fish, versus you being dependent on a bureau. Now, if you ever want to work with a bureau, we can help you with that. We can help you understand the pros and cons of that. But the first thing you need to do is not worry about a bureau and focus on you understanding how to find and book gigs. Anthony said, "Do you work on the content I present? Of course, you review it, but I assume I own the rights to it." Yeah, like your website, your video, your speaking content, like you own all of it. We are here as a guide, as a coach, as a mentor, but this is your stuff. Like we don't we don't own anything of yours. All right, it's all 100% yours. Um, Blake asked, good question. Is speaking on switching to vegan living to help curb climate change a thing, or is that niche into oblivion? LOL. Good question. There is absolutely like um, there's an overlap here between what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and what it is that organizations and groups actually pay speakers to talk about. So there's some speakers we talk to that are like, I'm really passionate about, helping teach dogs how to raise children in third world countries and knit scarves for their owners. And it's just like, you may be the world's greatest on that, but it doesn't mean that anybody pays speakers to talk about that. So again, we're the problem solving business. And so people have to be, just because you're passionate about a problem, the other side of the equation is other people have to be passionate about it. So what we can do is we can help you understand how to position that in a way where vegan living to help curb climate change is a thing. I don't know off the top of my head. We can help you understand and how to find out, but we can also help you kind of reposition so the topics that you could speak on in an angle and an audience that makes sense, where you can be paid. Charlie asked, "Do you offer coaching advice to pure storytellers?" I mean, a good speaker is a storyteller, and so if you're wanting to book gigs and share a story and share your message, like we can absolutely show you how to do that. We've worked with storytellers who are speakers. We've worked with comedians who are speakers. We've worked with magicians who are speakers. And so if you want to present to an audience, we can help you understand how to do that. Mm. Laura asks, so are you able to help us make a speaking reel virtually? Yeah, if that's what you want. If you want a virtual demo video, then absolutely that's what we can make for you. So what we'll do is we'll work with you to help you get clear on who you speak to, what's the problem that you solve, what that solution is, what that talk looks like. And then we can work with you to figure out, do you want to speak to more in person? Do you want to do more virtual? And so if you say, hey, I just want to do virtual gigs, you don't have to do both. You can do either or. And so if you say, I just want to do virtual gigs, then we can help you create a demo video for just virtual speaking. So that's not a problem. Tanya asked, can you list the industries that are still hiring speakers at the same similar pace pre-COVID? Honestly, all of them. All industries are still hiring speakers. You know, some industries are hiring more, some are hiring less, but every industry is still hiring speakers. In fact, I was talking to, there's a friend of mine who's a speaker agent who does a lot in the education space, for example. And education has obviously been, dramatically impacted with schools, trying to figure out if they're going virtual, are they meeting in person, are they not meeting in person, that sort of thing. And I remember talking to him and I was like, hey, you doing okay? He's like, dude, we're booking stuff left and right. They're booking a ton of virtual stuff right now. He's like, I'm busier than ever before booking virtual gigs in the education space. So I'm continually amazed. There are still, again, there's a lot of gigs that are continuing to be booked in every possible industry. I'm really interested in presenting to scientific audiences. Do you cater to business ideas only? No, we've had uh, speakers in all different industries, all different genres, all different topics, all different angles. We can talk about some of the pros and cons with any of them and what opportunities exist. But yeah, I'm continually amazed at the types of topics that people get booked for in the speaking industry. So regardless of who you want to speak to, regardless of what you want to speak about, we can absolutely help you. I think my computer is froze up here. Uh-oh. All right. I don't know what just happened there. You guys still here? Can you hear me all right? I am so sorry about that, but nonetheless, I'm back. All right. Hey, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Again, sorry about all the technical issue there at the end. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. We hope this was helpful for you. Again, if you haven't already, go book your call. Go to the speakerlab.com/call, speakerlab.com/call. We've had a lot of people book calls. Keep booking your calls. We still got space for you. We want to talk to you. So again, book your call at the speakerlab.com/call. All right. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon. You guys are awesome.